Hello and welcome to another episode of Construction Week's Expert Interview Series, where we speak to experts from the industry on various topics concerning the region's built environment. Joining me today is Maarten Wolfs, Partner, Capital Projects and Infrastructure Leader at PwC Middle East. Thank you so much for joining us today, Maarten.
Thank you, Ranju, for having me on this event. Thanks.
To start off with, just wanted to understand, because capital projects have been hit particularly hard, with worker absence, supply chain disruptions, and deteriorating investor confidence due to obviously COVID-19. How, according to you, will this affect construction stakeholders in the long run in terms of their stability in the existing market?
I think I would begin by saying that this year we ran a survey called the Capital Projects and Infrastructure Survey, which we do every 2 years. And we've run this for about 10 years now. So we have a lot of data in terms of what the market feels, the hot topics, the trends, the issues, and the challenges are that the industry is facing here in the Middle East. And based on the latest survey that we ran between February and April of this year, there's a lot of data to support that indeed people are anxious about the supply chain. People are anxious about the economic impact that the measures that have been brought in place to deal with COVID-19. But combined with the fact that the oil price early this year hit another low, if you compare it, say, over the past 10 or 15 years, this dual impact in turn has also introduced a huge amount of uncertainty in the industry. And this impacts the commitment, for instance, that international operators have to the Middle East in terms of what level of resources should they be committing and deploying on the ground, because what's going to happen to the supply chain, what's going to happen to the project pipeline, and is there in fact going to be a follow-through from governments in the region in terms of the commitments that have been made on projects.
I know of the many findings from the survey. One of them was about the lack of effective project management. Could you talk about how has the lack of project management actually affected project budgets in regard to, cost effectiveness during a project's life cycle?
To be honest, this is not a new issue. It's a recurring theme, not only in this part of the world, but I would say all over the place. What we have is a duality in approach as far as major infrastructure projects are concerned. You have projects that have been very well thought through, where a proper needs analysis has been conducted up front, where the government department or the procuring authority is absolutely clear in their mind why it is that that piece of infrastructure is required. Yep. Furthermore, there's also usually a business case behind that, which drills down to another level of detail in terms of who will be using the asset, how much is it going to cost to build, where is the funding going to come from. Unfortunately, also, there is another set of projects which very often occur by accident of history or by a decree, where procuring authorities and agencies launch themselves immediately into engaging with the supply chain and with contractors to try to bring this project through as quickly as they possibly can.
Okay, interesting. So moving ahead with, obviously, one of the major elements of in a project's life cycle is obviously project financing, which has been a tricky curve for developers. And this was obviously a very big challenge during the pandemic, as we all know. But how has this changed since the ease of restrictions across, at least in the Middle East for now? And will the nature of project financing actually evolve with the new normal in the coming few months, or probably the next quarter or so?
I would say that the impact of the measures that were taken for COVID didn't have a hugely profound effect on the levels of liquidity, say. There is always a shortage of good assets for the capital markets to invest in. Where we did see an impact was that the process through which a project financing is brought about, the negotiations, the toing, the froing, and all the rest of it, of course, was delayed by the fact that people were locked up at home. So on the basis of that, there was a minor effect in terms of the length of time it actually took to get deals done, but it hasn't had a negative impact in terms of the appetite of capital markets to provide capital to these types of projects. And it's not had a negative effect on governments, who, of course, wish to embrace as much private financing as they possibly can to secure foreign direct investment to their projects.
Okay, and also because since you spoke about project financing, there is something that is very important right now is the changing face of private financing, as we know. I mean, that is something that has been adopted by many construction stakeholders across the board. So can you tell me, how has the involvement of private sector, helped in terms of project success?
I would say that private financing in infrastructure has multiple benefits, but of course the most important and pertinent one at the moment in the Middle East is the fact that if you're trying to stimulate your economy, if you're trying to diversify your economy, and if you're trying to develop your local industries, then introduction of private financing into the funding of a project really helps to increase the positive multiplier effect that that project has on the wider economy. For instance, if you look at a traditional EPC type arrangement whereby a government agency, say, is procuring a road or a bridge, commonly worked out, the multiplier effect and the benefit on the wider economy is anywhere between 2 and 2.5 times the value of that contract. Mm-hmm. If you have private financing involved as well, then you boost the multiplier effect in terms of activity in the wider economy, because you have the involvement of capital markets, mm-hmm. the investors, the equity side, the debt side. And in addition to that, you actually manage to further stimulate your economy whilst having minimal impact on your short-term and medium-term budgets. But in addition to that, you also attract long-term foreign direct investment. Yep. So in terms of the changing face of private financing, we're seeing it used more as a fiscal tool to help stimulate the wider economy, as opposed to just a very narrow way to fund or finance a specific project.
So can you tell me how significant have design, build, finance, operate, as well as build, operate, transfer models been in the region, and for obviously existing as well as future projects?
The 10 years that I've been living and working in the region, I've seen a huge increase in the use of public-private partnerships, and in particular, the deployment of the BOT, or as you say, the DBFO type model. And traditionally, we've seen this a lot in the utility space. Yep. If you look at, for instance, the renewables program here in Dubai, the renewables program in Abu Dhabi, all of these projects have been structured along the lines of a PPP, and they've been massively, massively successful mm-hmm. in terms of getting projects done on time, on budget. But as I said before, they've been a great way to boost the multiplier effect of these projects in the wider economy by introducing foreign capital, foreign direct investment, and also stimulating the regional and local banks to take long-term debt and equity positions in these types of deals.
On that note, we come to an end to this video. Thank you so much, Maarten, for joining us today. I think it was very insightful, and it was very important at this point in time to talk about public-private partnerships and how, companies are dealing with what the current scenario has been and how they can look into alternative financing probably in the future.
Ranju, thanks a lot. Anytime.
All right. To all our viewers who've been tuned in, please don't forget to hit the like button and share the video with your friends and colleagues. We will see you in another episode in the Expert Interview series. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.